Good evening, everybody. It's Donovan at Spitting Seeds BB. I'm coming at you from the Out of Rhythm Fantasy Sports Studios, I suppose. Just a quick little reminder that you could follow Out of Rhythm Fantasy on X at Out of Rhythm Fant. You can like and subscribe on the YouTube. They also have links to their Discords in their bios. You can reach out to myself on X at Spitting Seeds BB. I also have a Discord that I can provide you a link for, and can get you hooked up with the Outer Rhythm Fantasy Discord as well. My email, if you'd like to send me any questions in the off season as we warm up to the start of the season, is spittingseedsbb@gmail.com. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to send me a DM on the X platform or send me an email or find me in the Discord, and I can help answer any questions you have as you prepare for your upcoming drafts, or maybe you have dynasty questions that you need some help with. I play multiple platforms, multiple different sites, multiple different rules, 12, 15, 30 teams, contract, dynasty, you name it, I probably play it. So way too many leagues, way too little time. So yeah, give this like on YouTube here, or if you're listening on the podcast version, make sure to rate and review and give us a couple downloads as we get rolling here. We're going to start out here. This is going to be my preseason warm-ups, I guess. Not really going to go with the straight up hard rankings maybe yet. I'm still working on a lot of my projections. So this is a little raw yet, but I just found some interesting facts here, I guess, when I was working on my catchers, and I thought I'd share it with you. Catchers, you're probably not going to win you or lose you a league, so it's pretty safe. This is a safe spot for me right now as I continue to figure out how I want to really analyze the tools that I'm building. I am starting from scratch. This is the first year, so hopefully I'm on with my projections and my model works. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than I thought it would be, but I want to keep these kind of short. So I think we should just dig right in. That's enough about me. Again, this is just food for thought, especially maybe if you're a first time player of fantasy or novice, might even get you thinking to look deeper if you play more. I am going to research more into this. One thing I do want to note before we get started is I pulled NFC data because it's probably the most true right now with actual drafts happening. I think at the time I pulled this, there was 35 total drafts completed. So that's a good sample. And that was, I pulled just the month of November, from November 1st to November 27th, I think, when I pulled the information, and 35 completed drafts. So, yeah, like I say, a good number. I did pull 15 teams, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. I know a lot of leagues are 10 or 12. I'm going to talk about the ADP, but I don't know that it's relevant as opposed to where they are picked. ADP can vary drastically between your format. NFBC tends to be 2 catchers, so catchers tend to go higher. But if we just stay in the top 15 area, it'll make a lot of sense. And it should apply across most leagues because the top catchers taken in formats are pretty much similar. You're not going to take a 29th ranked catcher in the first 12. So those top 12 usually stay pretty fluent. So let's start digging in. Let me get my screen, and bear with me here if you're on the audio only version. Well, even if you're on the YouTube version, I'm pretty new at the all the controls here. So usually I got Jamie pushing buttons and setting me on everything up on a tee for me. Doing these solo ones will be a struggle in the beginning, but I will get going. I will get the hang of it, I promise. So looking at the, I said I'm going to use 15. So I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet here. Top 15 of those 35 drafts so far sit as follows. Number 1 was Adley Rutschman, JT Realmuto, followed by Will Smith, William Contreras of the Brewers, and then Yanier Diaz, who that's going to be very interesting to follow. Yanier of Houston, who is, but I believe you should start with catcher eligibility in all leagues. This might be his only year, but we'll see. Maybe he'll get enough catcher this year. Then number 6 is Cal Raleigh, then Salvador Perez, Sean Murphy, Gabriel Moreno of the Diamondbacks, then Wilson Contreras of the Cardinals, then Francisco Alvarez. Number 12 is Bo Naylor, followed by Jonah Heim, Logan O'Hoppe, and Keibert Ruiz as your 15th. And we're going to stop there. And if I could go to 20. Luis Campusano, Mitch Garver, Tyler Stevenson, Elise Diaz, and Shea Langoliers. So that's through 20. That kind of gives you an idea what's behind there. ADP in this format ranged from Adley Rutschman at 150 to Keibert Ruiz at 175. Now, if you're in a single catcher league, Keibert Ruiz, if he is the 12th pick now, or the 15th pick, I'm sorry, in a single catcher league, he's going to be in the 200s, well into the 200s. If you're in a 12, it'd be interesting to see. So in the 12, there are people that do take 2 catchers. So you'll still get down to the Keibert Ruiz area, but Bo Naylor still as the number 12 in ADP rank he'll still end up well into the 200s and be like, if I was drafting and he was available, if I'm drafting in a 12 team and there's 15 catchers drafted, Keibert Ruiz will be my catcher with the last pick. Actually, maybe not even, and we'll talk about that a little more here as we go on. But Keibert Ruiz would be a fair pick around 15 anyway. But so digging into the data, I have some projection models, and I'm working on the games played, because my models break it down to a more of a per at bat / per game type scenario, and then I have to figure out how many games are played. Catcher is going to be difficult. There's a large number of statistical indifferences that can happen. You have a catcher that might catch a number of innings, and then he'll get relieved for a few innings at the end of the game. So maybe he gets 3 at bats compared to a normal player who would get 4 in a game. But overall, I think I'm pretty confident in my numbers as I'm looking across at other projection models. I think I'm in the ballpark, so I feel pretty confident about that. And the nice part is then I can adjust. Let's say there's big news that someone's injured or a trade happens, and a catcher or any position player that I'm going to use my model for, as they move from, let's say, a backup role to a starting role, I can adjust then their statistics fairly easy by suggesting that they're going to have more plate appearances, essentially. So, anyways, to make things fair for my exercise, I took an average of the top 15 of the ADP. I took an average of their games played and used that for all catchers, just to kind of get an idea of if someone was injured or if a trade was to occur. And because we are in November and there's so much that can happen between now and the start of the season, if all things are the same and I'm drafting right now, these are the players that I identified that are either above or below potentially where they should be. One of them is going to be kind of a shock, maybe, but maybe not. And there's reasons for all of A, why the ADP is high, or B, why I'm saying maybe we should temper our expectations a little bit. We'll talk about each of those as we go on. So, oddly, my number one catcher using my model is not Adley Rutschman. Adley Rutschman is going currently around pick 50 in that two catcher format, with a minimum pick of 29 and a max of 72. I, using my model, would have him at about the 6th in a roto format. And that's averaging his statistics for the 5 statistical categories in a true 5x5 roto, or 5x5 head-to-head. They're pretty similar when you boil it down. Like, both systems are essentially the course of a season. Head-to-head, you want a more consistent player, where rotisserie, if they hit 40 home runs, it doesn't matter if they slump for 3 months. The end result's always 40 home runs. So head-to-head, you want your consistency to play out week over week, and roto, you're just looking for the end game. So I kind of view those as the same, and then break it down in my head about who runs hot or cold, who is more consistent. And in a head-to-head format, I'll take the consistent player. In a roto, I don't really care. So we'll leave it at that. So I have multiple different types of projections, and I'm working on them for all my different leagues that I have, so I can set myself up with all the tools as I'm going through this. I might as well benefit from it. So I actually have JT Realmuto as the number one catcher. If everybody played 125 games, statistically, he would lead the clubhouse. So looking at the leaders, there are multiple catchers who would have more runs. There are catchers who would have more home runs, more RBI. I think what saves Realmuto is the stolen bases and the batting average bring him up. So overall, he isn't that many. He has only a few less runs scored, only a few home runs less, only a few RBI less, but he is the top dog for still statistically for stolen bases. Now, the caveat on that is a catcher like Bo Naylor, who hasn't really had a lot of time in the system. So my model might suppress him a little bit. So Bo Naylor per game, it looks to me like his runs and RBIs are low. Those will probably adjust a little bit this year, but I think his stolen bases, I only have him down for 9, but I think he can achieve that if he can get on base. So his batting average that will keep him down. So I still don't think he'll end up as the number one on my list, but I think he should be higher than I will have him. So my number one was Real Muto. Number two was Will Smith. Number three was William Contreras. And number four was Wilson Contreras. So that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. The number one by ADP right now is Rutschman, Real Muto, Will Smith, and then William Contreras. Yanier Diaz, I also have at 5, which matches the ADP. So I am saying I am looking at 59 runs, but 27 home runs and 70 RBI, no stolen bases with a 279 batting average. So that's a pretty good season from a catcher. You shouldn't look to catcher for your stolen bases anyway, but a Real Muto gives you the benefit of a few swipes. So let's talk about what that means. I'm going to pull up these fine little graphics here. I just need to figure it out. Bear with me. Oh, that's not going to work. Here, we'll do this. So as I was talking, you look at last year's statistics for Adley Rutschman. He had 84 runs, 20 home runs, 80 RBI, 1 stolen base, and a 277 batting average. That is probably, I think he could get a little better yet. So my projections have him slightly lower, and that's partially because of using 125 games. I think he had 138 games last year. So I think my projections are spot on. And as I adjust those games for each individual catcher, I think Rutschman's spot on compared to where he was last year. And if my model's correct, it should actually bump his home runs up a little more. Again, what you're looking at is 2013 stats or 2023 stats. I'm sorry. So last year, Rutschman had he had 687 plate appearances in total with 20 home runs. So if he can replicate that again, I think he might even find a couple more home runs as he is, working on his craft coming into his 26-year-old season. He had 154 games last year. So that's a lot for a catcher. That's the piece that may tick down. So I do know that my model has him shorted, and there's a potential that he is the number one catcher that you really do want. And if I were to plug that in, I'm going to do that as I talk. I'm going to plug that into my model and see how that adjusts him compared to Real Muto, who Real Muto I would actually keep at 125 games because he's getting pretty long in the tooth, and we might not see that full season work. So if I were to give, we'll say 145 games to Rutschman, that still only bumps him up to 18 home runs and 68 RBI, 2 stolen bases. So, but 83 runs. And that puts him up to 4th. So I moved up from 6th to 4th. So basically what I'm saying is there is the potential for Adley Rutschman to get more home runs, more RBI, and it's likely going to happen. I'm using a model, so I should have to probably manually adjust. I guess my warning for Rutschman would be taking him as the first catcher overall. And if you were to take him with the 50th pick as your draft, boy, I think I personally would wait and take someone like Will Smith or William or Wilson Contreras. If you, especially in a 2-catcher league, you need someone. I would let Rutschman fall before I would go catcher, just because I think he's going to be pushed up. And I think you can get similar value in those next couple picks, and you might be able to get another position player in his spot. Cal Raleigh's another one. A lot of hype from last year. He had 30 home runs. He had followed up from a season prior of 27 home runs. The power is legit. Batting average is terrible. It did tick up 21 points last year, so that's good. He found 12 more RBI and 22 more, 32 more runs. So, statistically, he's trending upward, and I think he's probably about where he's going to be at that 30-ish home run arena, which is great. That's what you're looking for. And I think that his batting average keeps him down, and like most catchers. So he's kind of those, as you're building your squad, you say, I need cheap home runs, or these won't be cheap home runs, but I need home runs. I'm going to take Cal Raleigh right now to pump up those home runs. I think that's a safe play. And if you're taking him in at 6, 7, 8, I think you're okay. Number 6, 7 at their 8th catcher off the board, I think you're okay. Next is Gabriel Moreno of the Diamondbacks. I personally feel he was kind of a disappointment last year. I had him in a lot of places. I just don't. We're a season and we're probably not even quite a full season in on him. I don't think we're seeing much. I don't know if he's going to get much more over the 15 home run mark. He is going to give you some stolen bases, just a small handful, which is nice. And the batting average. So this is another build guy, which is why I don't really believe in taking him at 9th. I just don't know what you're going to benefit unless you're so bad at batting average. But again, he's a catcher. 111 games last year. Maybe he plays 130 games this year. So with 450 plate appearances. So I just don't know what you're gaining with taking Moreno at 9th. My model has him at the 29th rated catcher, and a lot of that is due to the low home runs, low runs, which some of that should rectify as the season goes on. And then lastly is Francisco in this group. Last is Francisco Alvarez, another young catcher. So is my model going to be perfect? Probably not. Is it going to be close? Possibly. I think batting average has a chance to come up. So, which means sometimes that home runs will go down or at least stay stagnant. So I think the 25 I'm pretty satisfied with if he gets that 120, 130 games again. Runs, he had 51 last year with 25 home runs, 63 RBI, 2 stolen bases, and that 209. I think, like I said, you see that average come up. Runs have the potential to come up. RBI could fluctuate, probably up depending where he bats in the lineup. But just another guy that's currently drafted at 11th that I don't know if I'd take him there. There's a couple guys that we'll talk about next that I feel are probably probably better values and just have a little more complete tool or upside to take at that later catcher. If I took Francisco Alvarez again, it's because I want to lock in 25 home runs. Um, in a one catcher league, that's my only reason I have him is for home runs. So like Cal Raleigh, Francisco Alvarez, those are just home run guys for me. So now we're going to talk a little bit. My next slide will be about some players that I think you could probably reach for a little bit. And then two of them are going to be guys that you could take a stab on with that last catcher. So let's get into those right now. Let me pull that up. So Mitch Garver, everybody is scared of Mitch Garver, and rightfully so. He's 32 years old. Now, one caveat that I have is that I gave him the 125 games. Last year, he only played 87. In fact, he's never played 125 games. But if you are in a two catcher league, this is a guy I wouldn't mind having as my second catcher, just in case he gets to play. I don't know what's going to happen to him, if he's going to get moved. What his end game's going to be, but the guy has a bat and he knows how to use it, right? Like he had 87 games and hit 19 home runs last year. In 2019, he had 31 home runs in 93 games. So I mean, the guy can hit. Both 2019 and last year, he batted over 270. In years that he didn't bat 270, which he was injured in 2020, if I remember. I think he's dinged up in 21 and 22. So he didn't quite have the home runs that we wanted. But if this guy got a full season of work, he's easily in the 20 home run, 250 area. So he's kind of worth it, depending on what happens to him between now and the season, where he what the landscape looks like in front of him. He could be a sneaky, like, this is my last catcher, I'm going to take a stab at it. The other guy is Danny Jansen, and it's just kind of similar to him. If he could play the full season and he didn't have the Alejandro Kirk tax on the team, this guy could give you a nice 20 home runs. This is a guy that if you're at the end and you need a catcher, he's a good guy just to take, because you're going to get 15 home runs from him over the course of the year. So this is more of a deeper 15 team league with your last pick type of thing. But currently he's like the 22nd catcher. But I think if he could play a full allotment of games, a decent allotment of games, he's a guy that you could take a stab on late and maybe, make some money on. Hypothetical money. Bo Naylor is the next one. We don't really have a huge sample size from him, but what he did give us tells me he's about a 20, or is he 25 home runs? He's 20 home runs and I said 9 stolen bases. I'm looking at Baseball Reference. They have him for 162 game average of 25 home run, 11 stolen bases. I don't think he's going to get 165 games in a season, but that's pretty good. That's a pretty good stat line, especially with that double-digit stolen base potential. He batted 237 last year. I think he can squeeze out a little more than that. He has a 328 OBP on base percentage. So he takes an okay amount of walks. And with the walk, if he had a better OBP, if he worked on getting on base more, and that would contribute to more stolen bases. So Bo Naylor, currently the 12th, I would probably take a stab on him higher than Francisco, definitely above Gabriel Moreno. I think I would have to do some more research if I'd take him before or after Sean Murphy, but I think the stolen bases, I might even take him at like the 8th catcher overall, just on that chance, because man, if you get doubled it, he could be a similar JT Realmuto of the future if he can get on base a little more. And lastly, Jonah Heim, who's going 13th overall right now. I think that's way too low. I was on Jonah Heim last year. He was the number 1 catcher in fantasy until his injury. And then he did fairly well after his injury through the end of the season. It wasn't the same, but he still gave us production. And ended with 61 runs, 18 homers, 95 RBI, 2 stolen bases, and a 258 batting average in the Texas lineup. So I have him at 125 games. Let's see. He played 131 games last year. I have him at 125 games, looking at 53 run, 16 home runs, 71 RBI. So a little regression. I'll need to look at that. It was a much better year. He did improve drastically with the bat and on base percentage from the prior year. Strikeouts stayed relatively the same. Walks, I guess, were probably a little lower given his number of plate appearances, but definitely had a really good start, really hot start to the season. And I think he struggled when he came back from his injury, and I think that pulled his statistics down quite a bit. So just a catcher that I will probably be on. And if he's, especially in the 12 team leagues, 10 team leagues, Jonah Heim's going to be my catcher. And I will take him, unless Bo Naylor's still there, but definitely going to take him before the Gabriel Moreno and the Francisco Alvarez. So that's just kind of, as I'm digging in, those 4 are the guys that, mainly Bo Naylor and Jonah Heim. Those are the main 2 that I am going to probably draft ahead of ADP. So Bo Naylor probably 8th overall, and then followed by, if I don't get Bo Naylor, then Jonah Heim, pushing down some of those other ones. And then in your 2 catchers, like taking stabs on Mitch Garver and Danny Jansen it's not going to hurt you. Especially if they get a good amount of plate appearances this year. They have all the tools. Let's see. What else can we talk about? Then there's just a ton of catchers that have chances to show up and pop. And we can watch for them. One thing that ends up happening in Major League Baseball is catchers. You'll have some teams that are just don't need the bats and have defense first catchers. So we'll stay away from those, and those will flush out in the rankings. And hopefully, if you're in a 12-team league, you don't even have to touch those guys. But hopefully, you found this information to be helpful. I'm going to figure out a good way to post some of this stuff in the Spitting Seeds Baseball Community Discord, also the Outer Rhythm Discord. start posting some of this information so that people can tear it up and tell me it sucks, or tell me I'm an idiot, or tell me I'm smart. I don't care what you tell me. Either way, I like to learn from everything. So if you have any comments, positive or negative, I'll take any feedback because I always want to get better. And I'm going to start working on dialing in my projections. I'll probably do the same exercise, finding an average for all the positions. So I think when you put everybody on the same level, I think it kind of shows who has um, who stands above the rest. So if I look right now really quick, if Danny Jansen gets 125 games played, given his history, he's going to hit 24 home runs. So um, Mitch Garver is going to hit 26. So like, what does that mean? Danny Jansen and Mitch Garver are pretty similar, have pretty similar capabilities if they're able to stay on the field or have the position, be in the position to play. Um, and some of that is, again, some of my model I know is going to treat the younger players, um, they're going to be a little more violent when they're ups and downs. But hopefully you found this information to be useful. Again, you can find myself at Spitting Seeds BB on X. You could DM me or send me a message or whatever you need to do there. Also, spittingseedsbb@gmail.com if you want to send me the email version of a question, or you can find me on the Outer Rhythm Fantasy Discord or the Spitting Seeds Baseball Community Discord. Outer Rhythm Fant on X if you're looking for the Outer Rhythm boys, and they can get you hooked up with their Discord as well. I can also get you in there if you want to talk about baseball, football, college football, basketball. It's all in there. So come and check it out. Come and chat with us. Give this a like if you would, and rate and review if you don't mind. Again, if you want to review me negatively, you can send it to me in a tweet or an X, a DM, or an email, and I'd be happy to talk about ways that I can make my information, my messages better to you, so it doesn't hurt our ratings. But that's all I got for now. So thank you very much. I'm going to try to get this at least every other week. I'll have something for you up until first pitch, and then I'm not sure what happens after that. I get very, very, very busy. Actually, starting in January, I get busy already with youth sports. So I look forward to bringing you more insight and different ways to look at players. It never hurts to have multiple opinions and multiple suggestions. So with that, I am out. Thank you. Have a great night.